but also trying to figure out, well, because in a way, I mean, you know, that whole notion of the America being a melting pot, or a friend of mine used to call it a stew. We're more of a stew than a melting pot, because we all maintain some of our identity, you know, and we don't all just meld together in that way. Like, you know, I've been to St. Mike's Carpathian Festival, and there's something in our heritage that we celebrate, right? So how does that work in our area? Like how does American Civic kind of help people to naturalize, but in the same way help celebrate their heritage?
We are accredited representatives of USCIS in our area, so we are helping with immigration paperwork, and also we have a lot of events in our center that people can come and socialize, and it helps us to promote racial, religious, and political understanding. We have all nations ball, we have immigration refugee workshops, we have English as a second language, and also programs for GED classes, for citizenship classes. If somebody feels that they need help to prepare for citizenship exam, or they need us to help with other things, we always there to help.
I think Binghamton is a very interesting place, this area, because the cultural diversity of people touches all kinds of places around the world. If you visit the Robertson Museum, you'll see one of the rooms there where they have exhibits from many different groups of people who've come and found a home here in Binghamton, which is kind of wonderful. I love this room. There's a quotation from John Kennedy there that I think about a lot, in which he says, "In the end, we all breathe the same air, we all drink the same water, we all want the best for our children, and we are all mortal." And somehow we have to make it work. I live in the First Ward. I've been there 25 years now. Not far from my home is the Woodrow Wilson Elementary School. It is a wonderful school. Had I lived here, grown up here, this would have been my school if I was starting, but I didn't. I came here already as a college student. But I'm amazed by Woodrow Wilson School, because they have at least kids representing 27 countries who are part of the enrollment over there. And when you get close to the school, you find something kind of amazing and wonderful. They all get along. Some come in there not knowing any English. All of a sudden they're enculturated, you know, and it's like all of a sudden it's like the UN in miniature, and like there's something to teach us. And I guess what they really could teach us is that when you break down the wall of isolation, of not even wanting to know who the neighbor is, that you find out, wait a minute, I mean, yeah, they came from different places and all this, but still we share a common places where we are right now, living the life God has given us, and it really changes the dynamic. It's like the old song, "To know you is to love you," but first you have to come to know. And I remember as a young priest, somebody told me in this coal mining town, where a lot of immigrants worked in the mines, and you know, right after World War I, you know, and he said, everyone has a story. Listen to them. For 2 bits and a cup of coffee, you could solve a lot of things. I mean, you know, and it means getting along and talk to each other. If you do that, all of a sudden a lot of walls come down right away, and you find, wait a minute, okay, we all came from different places, maybe come from different tradition, different religion, whatever, but still, here we are sharing the same space, the same air, the same community. Let's make it work together. And that's not very easy to do. It's very difficult, because we're dealing with our own inert prejudices that are part of our lives. Look at this picture in 1915.
Right.
This is a picture of the choir, St. Michael's. Most of these are young kids, maybe teenagers. Their sons or daughters of immigrants, or maybe immigrants themselves. But if you look at the picture closely, you'll see an American flag front and center in the middle of this picture. They came to be Americans. They left the place which they loved. They came here, but they loved this place. But this is 1915. By 1920, in this country, because of the change in Europe, the end of World War I, the Bolshevik Revolution, sometimes people's Slavic names ended up being targets of fear and oppression, and you know, they had the Red Scare and all this kind of stuff, and it's like they had to work through all those things. But you know, this is not something that's the new in our society, but you know, I think the cup of coffee and getting to know each other makes a difference. It helps break the barriers.
I still remember when I was in school, and this would have been in the 70s and 80s. My last name was derided by people. It wasn't even a member. You know, like when you'd have to tell your family history.
Sure.
As soon as I used the word Russian, it was automatically viewed with suspicion. You must be a communist.
Well, this was the same thing. I'm talking post-World War I, but post-World War II, by the end of the 1940s, the ascendancy of communism in Eastern Europe, Joe McCarthy, the hearings, if you were a Slav man, you could be on his list. That's how it was. Trying to get a job, sometimes get a clearance, all the kinds of things. It's not so simple if you were of Slavic origin, but they lived through it. They got beyond that. We were better people than that, a better country than that kind of prejudice. We have to be that in spite of the things that we're afraid of.
And there's a rationale for why a person would want to leave their culture or flee from oppression. And that to me is the amazing story of the refugees and immigrants that we have currently in our area. They want a new life.
Yeah.
There's something driving them to want it, and you don't just leave home on a whim. You just don't wake up tomorrow morning and just say, oh, I think I need to go someplace, right? I gotta go someplace
You
different.
think of these families 100 years ago when they got on that boat.
Yeah.
And came to the United States. And of course in Binghamton, they were fortunate because EJ was here, and it was a whole different kind of corporate society taking care of these people. This was not the story in the mines and the mills. But they left, many of them, hoping to go back, but never going back, never again seeing a mother or father, a grandparent, an uncle and aunt, a cousin, a neighbor. Never went back. To leave all that, and it had to be really awful.
It would be.
To do that and come to a place where you don't even know the language, and somehow you have to become part of this, and they did it within a generation.
Well, and Cholpon, that is actually the reason for American Civic Association, was because somebody in 1939 decided that they needed to have a better way of welcoming people into our culture and helping them not just immigrate, but to assimilate, to be a part of the life that we all share as Americans. So I think the world of your organization. I think it does amazing work. As a theologian, I say it does God's work in a way, because it helps us show hospitality and show care for people who are wanting to come to this country. So if you're thinking about what people of faith could do in order to help immigrants and refugees enter into our community, what would you say to them?
We try to help even with basic needs, like the clean housing, aiding with basic stuff like when they come, the food, medical treatment, assisting with school registration and everything.
Great.
And I think it's very important, because when people leave their own country and come with children and come long way to come to United States, the first faces they see, and if somebody just giving them food and try to help them with basic needs, it's very important to show that we have a human face. We all have human face, and the nation itself as immigrants and refugees, we, despite of all our differences, we need to understand that the confrontation never helps.
No.
At least understanding or trying to understand the differences, it helps and makes our life better. And what we're doing, we're doing all kind of help we can do. We do the education, we help with immigration paperwork, we help with basic needs, even the furniture or transportation.
And of course the truth is that doing this work is a blessing. It is also for you dangerous. I mean, we live in Binghamton, where in your American Civic Association you had this tragedy in 2009. people reaching out to immigrants and refugees, and and we had those deaths, the shootings that took place there. But it didn't stop your work. In spite of it, it's open. It's doing the work again because it needs to be done. And sometimes we can't let the fear stop us from being who God has called us to be. That's really the lesson of the American Civic Association. To drive down Front Street and see the doors are open again. People are being welcomed. They're being taught. They're being mentored. They're being loved. Is in a place where such tragedy took place is a blessing for us, because it's a reminder to us, no matter what happens, we have responsibility to keep going here, take care of each other.
Yeah,
It's kind of like this parable in the Gospel, the Good Samaritan. The guy's lying in the gutter there. He's beaten up by these robbers, and the priest comes by and he's too busy. And the teacher comes, the Levite, the teacher, and he's too busy. He got other things to do. But the stranger comes by, the Samaritan. Those people didn't really get along. But it was a human face. It was someone created in the image of God. He had compassion. He takes care of him. And this is like what we're called to do. Jesus says, do this if you want to live. If you really want to be full of life, do this. That's all that matters. And so, is there danger? Of course. But is there love? There's always love. So.
It seems to me as if that's something that the American Civic Association does.
And I understand as an immigrant myself, it's very frustrating. They need to learn language, especially adults who come here. For children, it's much easier. The language is the most important thing, and the struggle goes for years. And it's the differences in the lifestyle, and looking for a job and trying to support your family, and at the same time not be able to go to the store and buy the simple things because you don't speak English. It's very frustrating things, and that's why our mission is try to understand and help, and even if it's little help, even if it's just a hand that you give, so sometimes it helps them to feel better and us to feel better.
Well, I want to thank you both for being on Encounter today. Father Jim, always good to have you on Encounter in Cholpon. It was great to meet you and to hear a little bit about what the American Civic Association does. I want to leave you with a stanza from Warren Shire's book, a poem called Home. He said, "No one leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark. You only run for the border when you see the whole city running as well." I want to challenge you all as Americans and as citizens of Binghamton to be a welcoming place for people who are running from the mouth of the shark. Thanks for watching.
Yes, and Merry Christmas to everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
As we think about no room at the inn, the flight to Egypt.